Hi, I'm Brian E. Denton, author of the book A Year of War and Peace and the poetry collection Inspiration. Welcome to my channel. This video is part of a series I'm doing on Dante's Divine Comedy, wherein I'm reading through the entire Divine Comedy, all three books, Inferno, Purgatorio, and Paradiso, at a rate of 3 cantos or chapters per week, and I'm offering my thoughts on each individual canto. If you're interested in watching my videos for the Inferno, you're in luck. I have a playlist, and you can find a link to that playlist down in the show notes below. I'm doing all this as a part of an independent contribution to Baylor University's 100 Days of Dante Project. If you haven't heard of the 100 Days of Dante Project, you really do need to learn about that. So go ahead and click through on the link I provide in the show notes. You're going to love what you find there. I guarantee it. For any new viewers, I'd first of all like to welcome you. So welcome. I'd also ask that you please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. We're trying to get up to 250 subscribers by the end of the year, and I think we can do that with your help, so thanks in advance for that. Also for new viewers, please know that these videos follow a certain organization. You have this introduction, which I'm doing right now. This will be followed by a synopsis. After that, you'll find a characters and themes section, and then a takeaway section, where I offer my own thoughts on how we can use the canto to live better lives. After that, I'll wrap things up with an outro. Then you can just go wherever the YouTube algorithm takes you. Have fun. So with that, let's get right into it then. Today's video is on Purgatorio, Canto 4. Dante kicks off this canto by writing some stanzas concerning the relationship between the human soul and scholastic philosophy's notion of sense impression. Naturally, what else are you going to write poetry about? After that, we see our two poet pilgrim heroes making their way up the mountain, and it is strenuous. At least it is for Dante, who just says that he is completely exhausted. He's having a very tough time of it, a real tough time. Virgil urges him on. They talk for a little bit about astronomy, they talk for a little bit about geography, and then Dante just, "Are we there yet?" says guide Virgil, who responds, "No, we're not there yet. We've still got a long way to go, but I will tell you this. The further we go, the less steep the path becomes." While all this conversation is going on, one of the penitent sinners has been listening, and he shouts out to Dante and Virgil. Dante and Virgil stop, and they consider this voice. This voice is coming from under the shade of a boulder. Virgil and Dante approach, and they see that there's actually a lot of people gathered under here, and in particular, Dante notes one of them for his laziness. And throughout the duration of this canto, Dante is just mocking this guy for his laziness. This guy's name is Belacqua. Belacqua offers a justification, or at least an explanation for his laziness, but like I said, Dante isn't having any of it. He continues to mock this guy. Virgil, though, he says that it's time to go. So we go. It's one of the great ironies found in the Divine Comedy that in this canto, one taking indolence as its major theme, that Dante wastes absolutely no time whatsoever getting right into some of the deepest thematic elements of the poem. We know, for instance, that the purging of sin is the primary theme of the Purgatorio, and Dante is doing just that here with his own sin in the opening 12 lines of this canto. In these lines, Dante the poet embraces the Christian theology of Thomistic scholasticism and rejects Platonism as it pertains to the soul. When one of our faculties is given over to pleasure or to pain, our soul will focus on that one alone, and seem to pay no mind to any of its other powers, revealing the error of the doctrine that maintains among the souls within us, one is more aflame. This is what Dante means in the opening lines of today's canto when he says that our soul, not our souls, will focus on pleasure or pain, and that this disproves the notion of the existence of multiple souls. For Ciardi, these stanzas show a purging of Dante's Platonism exhibited in earlier works, such as the Vita Nuova, and a moving towards proper Christian thinking. But Dante isn't done with the work he's doing in these stanzas just yet. Nah, this guy's the Randy Moss of poets. He's going deep. Since Dante is moving towards scholasticism, let's go to our boy Tommy Aquinas to see what he says about the nature of the soul as it pertains to pleasure and pain. To do this, we'll once again look at the Summa Theologica. Now, before I get into this, I just want to say, as I've said before, that I'm no philosopher, obviously. So don't take what I say as being completely accurate. Though I do promise you that I'm going to give a good faith explanation as to how I understand the topics that we're about to discuss. But I've never studied these things deeply. I've only read them once or twice and thought about them just a little bit. Nothing like a real scholar. I'm about to talk about the Summa Theologica, one of the foundational texts of Western civilization and the Western tradition. So to test out my argument that I'm about to make, you're going to want to read it on your own and preferably with a very knowledgeable guide. And as it turns out, there's a lot of stuff on the internet that can help you with this. One of them is called Aquinas 101, and I'll link to it down in the show notes below. It's produced by the Thomistic Institute, which is a collection of Dominican scholars, and it's really just high-quality work exploring all the work of Thomas Aquinas. I really think you'll enjoy it, if that's your thing. It's my thing. So with that triple-dosed, fully boosted caveat out of the way, let's go to Tommy to see what he has to say about pleasure and pain. It is evident that sensible pain, above all, draws the soul's attention to itself, because it is natural for each thing to tend wholly to repel whatever is contrary to it, as may be observed even in natural things. Bodily pleasures hinder the use of reason in three ways. First, by distracting the reason, because we attend much to that which pleases us. Now, when the attention is firmly fixed on one thing, it is either weakened in respect of other things, or it is entirely withdrawn from them. These two passages from the Summa Theologica are very important for our purposes. Today specifically, yes, but also for the Divine Comedy as a whole. St. Thomas says that acute or overwhelming physical or mental pain is not conducive at all to learning. But, he says, moderate mental pain can actually be conducive to learning, especially with regard to those things with which we wish to move away from, such as sorrow. Here, pain is information. We see this idea established in the closing canto of the Inferno. Remember, Virgil tells Dante that he must not ruminate for too long upon Satan, because they need to get going on their journey. He says to Dante, "Get to your feet, for the way is long, and the road not easy." The path to heaven through purgatory is going to be moderately painful. We see this reflected in the Purgatorio today. Dante is exhausted with the climb. He wants to pause. But Virgil, like a bench press spotter, says he's got to feel the burn. He's got to keep going if he wants those gains. Pain. Moderate pain as instructive. For without the purifying lessons of Purgatorio, there is no paradise. Finally, on pain, I suppose Dante's whole experience in hell was just one long series of experiencing moderate pain. We saw him crying all the time out of pity. And so he used this pain to learn the lessons necessary to avoid the awful fates he encountered there in his own life. So with pain out of the way, let's move on to pleasure. Aquinas is not keen on pleasure at all. He frowns upon the seeking of pleasure. For him, pleasure is so pleasureful, it wholly attracts the attention of the soul, and so distracts the use of reason and imagination. We become so enamored of the pleasurable experience that we lose sight of all else in pursuit of it. We see this today. Look at Belacqua. He rejects the teaching pain of the climb up the mountain for a pleasurable indolence under the shade of the boulder. So there we have it. Pain can be instructional, and pleasure can be enervating and debilitating of the soul. That's why one of the most spiritually uplifting things you can do in life is become a Mets fan. Joking aside, I wouldn't equate pleasure with joyfulness and happiness here. The Psalms, for instance, are filled with exhortations to be joyful. How to properly distinguish between joy and pleasure, though, is a task for a real philosopher, not me. I'm sure there is one, though. For our purposes, what we're learning today, alongside Dante the Pilgrim, is that pain wants to teach us things that pleasure can keep us from learning. It is the part of the wise man to resist pleasure, but of a foolish man to be a slave to them. For when thy judgments are in the earth, the inhabitants of the world will learn righteousness. Alright, that concludes my video for Canto 4 of Dante's Purgatorio. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Remember, we're trying to get up to 250 subscribers by the end of the year, and with your help, I'm sure we can do it. More importantly than getting likes for the video or subscriptions for the channel, however, is getting a conversation going down in the comments below. So let me know what you think about this canto, my thinking on the canto, or the poem in general. I'm very interested to hear what you have to say. If you'd like to contact me otherwise, you can do so on Twitter. My handle there is @BrianEDenton. And until the next video, take care of yourselves and others. You'll surely have noticed the short runtime of this video. You'll have to ask yourself, is this a meta-commentary on the relationship between laziness and lack of learning? Or is it just that I'm a lazy, shiftless bastard? See you around, Balakwa.